Okay. Hi, everyone. I know some of you, I recognize some of your names, so it's nice to see you. If Let me just make sure we're recording here. Yes, we are. All right. It's nice to see some of you that we've met before. If we haven't met before, hi, welcome. I'm Cheryl Rosenberg, Assistant Director and Career Advisor here on the Tufts Career Center. I have the privilege of working with students who are interested in careers in social impact, particularly education and nonprofits. And I'm joined by my brilliant colleague, Kelly, who will introduce herself as well in her areas of specialty.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And I have the pleasure of working with Cheryl in the Career Center, and I advise the government and international affairs and policy students. So I'm assistant director in the office. So thanks for being here.
So if you're not familiar with the Career Center, Kelly and I are both very happy to meet you today. Together, Kelly and I are really your team for all things social impact between, education, nonprofit, like Kelly said, government, NGOs, international affairs. There's so many different intersections, and we will talk about that today, how broad that term social impact is and all of the different avenues and intersections there are. But want to make sure that you know who Kelly and I are, the resources in the Career Center. I'm going to be talking a lot today. There's a lot of resources. So my hope is that you will take away at least one or two helpful new tools and establish a strong connection to Kelly and I. So with that, I'm going to get started. Kelly's here too. She'll be helping to monitor chat, sharing some links and answering questions, and we will try to leave some room at the end for questions as well. Okay. So you're all here because you want to talk about finding jobs and internship in social impact, right? So just really quick, what we'll be able to talk about today. I want to mention how to think about what you're looking for. And we're going to lay out the big, broad, messy landscape for what social impact is, what the landscape looks like. And then we'll go through these 4 steps for job searching and internship searching that will give you a structure to support your search. We will get to talk about how to connect with alumni, as it's a step in the process, and I think you'll discover some opportunities as well. All right, so let's jump right in. I always like to start conversations about finding opportunities with helping you narrow down on what you're looking for. Right? My guess is that some of you have something very specific in mind that you would like to do for the summer or for the next couple of years if you're a senior looking for a job, right? Some of you might be a little less certain, right? Or a little less narrow in what you're looking for. Maybe you have some ideas or themes. Maybe there's an issue you care about a lot, or maybe you just know you want to have a positive impact on your community, right? And then that's okay too. And what I want everyone, no matter where on that spectrum you are, is to think about and consider what would be meaningful for you. I think it can be really easy for us to get bogged down in the idea that there's just one perfect or ideal job or internship that is quote unquote right? The reality is there's no right internship or job, and that there's actually a lot of different opportunities that will get you to a similar place or open new doors for you. So I want you to just take a moment to think about what would be meaningful for you, right? You're thinking about a summer internship. Think about yourself next fall. What do you want to know next fall that you don't know now about yourself, about the world, about the intersection of those things? And then let's work backwards from that to establish what kinds of opportunities could give you that meaningful experience or help you learn that skill or knowledge or ability. And same thing with looking for full-time jobs. Your first job out of college is probably not going to be the job you have, long term. So think about what you want to get out of the next couple of years. What do you want to clarify about yourself? What kind of experiences do you want to have? What do you want to learn? Right? And in addition to just thinking about what would be meaningful and how you want to grow, it's important to also consider, what are your needs? What are some basic needs that you need to be met, right? Because we could dream and dream and dream, but we all need, food, housing, transportation, things like that. So some very basic needs, we need to consider meeting those as well. So when thinking about what could be meaningful, that can be a little bit of a big question, right? There's lots of things. So I like to break it down into 4 areas: skills, knowledge, professional development, and personal or miscellaneous. Right? So as you're thinking about what your goals are for your internship or job search, think about what skills you want to learn, right? What do you want to be able to do after the summer or a couple of years in your first job? Here are just some examples, right? Maybe you want to work with people. Maybe you want to support vulnerable populations, right? Maybe you want to be able to, maybe you want to learn about fundraising. Maybe you want to know how to do fundraising. What do you want to learn? Right? What knowledge areas? What do you want to know? What do you want to know about yourself and the world or the industry? And here's, again, just a couple examples. Maybe there's a topic you really want to get exposure to and learn about. Or maybe you want to clarify if something's right for you, or learn about options. And then how do you want to grow professionally, right? Maybe you want to become more comfortable, get a lot of practice with communication skills, or maybe you just want to be in an office setting, see what that's like. Right? What are your personal goals for the next couple of years or for the summer? Maybe you want to experience a certain city. Maybe you have other parts of yourself that you want to invest in too, hobbies, side gigs. And what do you need, right? Maybe you need to make sure you're making a certain salary, right? Maybe you need to be in a certain location. I think considering the environment, balance, what's not on here is rest, but that's something that comes to mind when I think about what you might need or want this summer, right? So this is always the first step of the process that I know a lot of us are tempted to skip. We just want to find the awesome opportunities. Make sure you're grounded in how it is you want to grow from the opportunity. And that will help us start to narrow and at the same time widen what kind of opportunities can help you reach those goals. Okay, so let's move into some of the more structural pieces for your internship or job search. Oh, sorry, my mistake. We're actually going to talk about the landscape and then we'll jump into the 4 steps of the process. Yeah, so here's a graphic that we're borrowing from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University outside of Chicago. This kind of lays out one version of the social impact landscape, right? Because social impact is this big, broad topic. It's this big, broad word that generally speaks to, having a positive impact on the community, right? And you can do that from so many different intersections and in so many different, industry sectors, right? It's not actually this clear cut standalone industry, right? There are some, like we could talk about nonprofits as their own industry or type of organization, right? We could talk about direct service, advocacy, community organizing, environmental and conservation, sustainability. We can talk about these different pieces as their own sector, but really they're all of these different intersections, right? So this is just a map to give you some ideas of how broad this really is. And Kelly just put in the chat for you a link to this image on a website that actually talks about gives a definition for each of these areas, right? So if you're looking at this map and you're thinking, wow, I never thought about, that impact investing could be a thing. You can learn a little bit more about how to use maybe finance skills to make a difference, right? To have impact in a positive impact in a community, right? So this is kind of this big broad scale of what social impact entails. But let me give you some more examples of how we can break down the different jobs and more particularly the different settings in this big broad social impact sphere. I like to break things down by the public sector and the private sector. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit messy. I'm sharing this with you because not to overwhelm you, but remember that the point of this is to think about all of the different environments in which you could have a positive impact. So if anything, I want this explanation and mapping to give you more ideas for your search, okay? When we look at the public sector, what comes to mind immediately for me, we think of nonprofit organizations that provide a variety of different services, right? We think of non-governmental organizations. We also want to include foundations, right? So technically foundations like the American Heart Association or the American Heart Foundation, that is a not-for-profit organization as well. The different model might be a little bit different, but even just if you're thinking about nonprofits, make sure you're also thinking about foundations and different kinds of nonprofits. Museums and cultural institutions are, nonprofit organizations as well in the public sector that are community-based, often focused on education, right? Access to education and knowledge about certain topics, cultural issues, and history. Hospitals, right? These are community-oriented public sector non-for-profit organizations. And then we also have the government, right? And we can think about local or federal government and the three branches of government, right? So we're really getting all of these different areas in which you can have different kinds of jobs that have impact, right? We also think about intergovernmental organizations, things like the UN, right? Think tanks. These are, policy developing organizations that actually usually run on both public and private funds, right? So kind of oversex. And then consulting is also another kind of intersectional kind of organization where we have some nonprofit consulting firms and also private. Yeah. When we look over at the private sector now, a lot of us will think immediately about corporate social responsibility, right? So these are jobs at corporations, more so actually departments within corporations that run the corporation's community engagement, right? So there are lots of different jobs in corporate social responsibility that think about and strategically think about and implement strategies for the corporation to have a positive impact on the community. So this could include philanthropy, right? Putting money back into the community. It could also include community programs like internships and services like mentorship services and other things. There are also private sector organizations with social missions. I see a lot of this in the retail space, right? So you might think of seventh generation, that soap and cleaning supply company with a social and environmentally conscious mission, right? Just one example of a retail organization for profit with a social mission. There are also different functional areas in corporations that have more positive impact. I'm going to give you a really specific example here just to give you an idea. Think about like a big bank or corporation, and there's going to be somebody who works there that oversees the internship program, right? So that position is all about education and curriculum and maybe even, recruiting and retaining a diverse and inclusive group of employees. Impact investing, right? So using finance to invest and have a positive impact in communities and developing communities and rural communities. Private consulting firms, right, do a lot of projects, some projects with the public sector organizations. Think tanks can be private as well as public, like I mentioned, right? So again, I know this is a lot, and I just share this with you to really get you thinking creatively about all these different areas in which you could work and have impact. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to do a job search, right? And there's 4 steps that I think can help you break down and organize yourself as you're looking for something, as you're looking for an opportunity. So these are the 4 steps, right? Documents, research, network, and search. Okay, so let's go through them. First and foremost, you got to have your documents in order, right? So documents refers to your resume, your cover letter, maybe references or a letter of recommendation. Now, not every job you apply to is going to need a recommendation letter. Most often you're going to be submitting a list of references, right? But you want to make sure that you're submitting and presenting this best version of yourself and communicating your skills, your abilities, and knowledge with your resume and cover letter, right? When you're thinking about your documents, you should be thinking about, what do I want to demonstrate to the employer, right? When I'm applying for a job, what do I want them to learn about me? And know that your documents are your communication tool. I'm going to show you a couple of resources to help you with these documents, okay? The first is we have a really specific education, nonprofit, and social impact resume guide. Kelly's going to put the link in the chat, and I am going to kind of show it to you as well. Here it is. Oh, I realized my window closed. My fault here. Here we go. Just give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the resume guide. Yeah, okay. So again, Kelly put this in the chat for you. And this is, I recommend downloading this, bookmark it. The first chapter is kind of basic resume. It's the same as in our career guide. So you'll see the same resume resources and examples. But as you get further into the chapters, you'll see how coursework and how coursework can be incorporated into your resume, how to convey your values through your resume. And then, some different advice, things to tailor and examples for different areas in social impact, right? So there's this education and teaching section with good examples if you're applying to a job where maybe you'd be a mentor or counselor of some type, right? We also have how to incorporate research into your resume with some really strong examples with social science research. Advocacy and organizing, we have a chapter on that with examples. And then lastly, like a nonprofit section that talks about what are nonprofits looking for and how can you demonstrate that in your resume with, again, some strong examples. Another resource for your documents is going to be appointments with the Career Center, right? So I'm actually going to just share with you the Career Center website here. We always have drop-in appointments, right? And our drop-ins, we call them our career labs. So you can come to the career labs. They're open every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We have them in person from 12 to 2. We also have them virtually from 5 to 7. So if you just click on this career lab and drop-ins button at the top of the website, you'll find the information. And you don't need appointments for those. And those are great hours to just drop in on the fly and get some advice or feedback on your documents. And then you can also schedule appointments with the Career Center advisors to help with documents. The way you do that is when you're in Handshake, you go to Career Center. You'll click appointments, and then you'll schedule a new appointment. right? And so you'll select undergraduate student advising. And then if you just want to talk to anybody about documents, you can certainly schedule a career exploration advising appointment. This is a general appointment for anyone, any topic. But you can also meet with myself by clicking this topic that's specific to education, nonprofit, social impact. You can, meet with Kelly by to talk a little bit more about tailoring your documents in this area, and so on. All right, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. Oops, I'll have to go through it all again. Now just give me a thumbs up so I know that you're seeing the PowerPoint and I shared my screen correctly this time. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Allison. All right. So let's skip over to research now. The next step. So we got our documents in order. We have to do some research to learn about the industry that we want to get into, or the sector, or the types of organization. We have to learn a lot to be ready for a strong and effective search, right? So research is all about gathering information about the field in general, right? Maybe there's a specific area that you want to learn about. We can gather information on, or trends that you can learn. Okay? Maybe you want to learn about employers that are doing certain things you're interested in that we want to learn about. I'm just going to pause because it looks like we're still seeing the Handshake screen. Okay. Thank you guys for letting me know. I apologize. I don't know why I'm having issues with this today. Let's try this. Are we seeing the PowerPoint now? Yes. Okay. Thanks, Josh, for letting me know. Oh, I apologize about that. Okay. I think my computer screens got mixed up. Okay. So we're gathering information about the field that we want to go into. We're learning about it, right? I want to mention it's important as you're gathering information and researching to reflect as you go, right? Everything you learn is going to have an impact on you. So as you learn things, make sure you're asking yourself, what I learned in line with my expectations, right? Do I like what I learned? Have I learned about something new I want to go research, right? And you can start this process by simply asking yourself, what do I want to learn about this job? What do I want to know about this industry? I want to show you a couple resources to do this research, okay? I'm going to walk you through the career communities. I just showed you how to make appointments, so you know that Kelly, myself, and the other advisors are a wealth of information, so you can start your research by meeting with us. Using alumni and LinkedIn to see what other people have done, or even talking to alumni to do some research and gather information is a great tool too. So we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to I'll show you how to sign up for updates so you can stay in the know as well. So let me pivot here to my web browser. And I'm going to show you this one place to do some research called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Kelly's going to put a link to it in the chat for you. This is a great place to do initial research and gather information. So the Occupational Outlook Handbook is a resource published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it allows you to go through these occupation groups here on the side. Let's do an example together. Let's pick education, teaching, training, and library. So you pick an occupational group, and then it gives you a list of jobs. This is not everything, right? This is not a specific menu of all the opportunities you'll find. It's more of a general overview of common jobs in the fields, right? So let's say we want to learn a little bit more about becoming a kindergarten teacher. So we can click on this link here. On the first tab here, we're going to get a summary. right? And a video. I love these videos. They're short and they give a good description of what kindergarten teachers do. But we can also dive deeper into these tabs on the top and learn more about, okay, what does a kindergarten teacher actually do? Where do they work? How do I become one? Do I need another degree? Do I need a certification? How much will I get paid, right? And what's the outlook? Do we, based on the data we're looking at now at the governmental level, like, are we going to need more or less kindergarten teachers in the future? And you can also look at similar occupations. So if that sounded interesting to you, here are some other ideas. We can learn a little bit more about social workers, for example. Right? So this is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Again, one of my favorite places. Sorry, I'm clicking around here. Here's the home where we can look through the different occupational groups just to learn some preliminary information. And then we're going to look at the career communities, right? So hopefully most of you know that the Career Center is organized into 6 different career communities. Not to say that you need to choose one, but these are all resources for you, right? Each of these career community pages has a wealth of information that can be a jumpstart to your research, right? You'll see the advisor who has expertise in this area, right? You'll see some jobs and internships. You'll see some events. These are employer info sessions usually, right? And you'll see this news feed here where we post articles, events, and opportunities every couple of days. Right, so I encourage you to look always back a few days in the news feed so you don't miss anything. Yeah, you can see internships that other students have done and interviews with alumni. Yeah, there's one. Right. You'll find some recordings from workshops here and a lot more resources down here. Here's that resume guide. 3 questions with and our podcast from here to there are all both resources with alumni interviews and stories. If you click on these blue tabs here, you can go a little bit deeper into that particular corner of the industry, right? So you'll find a ton of links to learn about, what is curriculum design, or, how do I become a teacher? You'll also find some specific job boards where you can look for internships and jobs. And we'll come back to this part a little later when we get to the search step. Now, I know this is a lot and you might be wondering, how will you, stay up to date? You're going to have to check the website every day, right? So I want to show you that you can actually subscribe. Well, you can customize an email you all are already receiving called On Track, right? So some of you might notice that you've received an email called On Track every Thursday night. That is customizable, okay? And so let me show you how that works, because it's one of the best things you can do for your research and to stay on top of interviews with alumni that we're posting, opportunities like internships and jobs and events. So when you go to the Career Center website, you're going to log in. Now, I know you might be thinking, I've never logged in before. That's okay. You're going to click log in, and then you're going to log in with your school credentials, just like I'm doing now. And it'll be as simple as this. And it'll say welcome and then your name, right? So this will say welcome Tori or welcome Morgan. Mine says welcome Cheryl. Once you see that, you can go to your preferences and you'll be able to select your content preferences for your On Track email. So you can tell us what kind of content you want to receive, and you can tell us a little bit more about who you are and what your interest areas are. And based on that, what you see in that email will be tailored. So let's say, well, we can use me as an example. This is how mine is filled out right now. And you can see, I don't want to get spammed with like internships in business or finance because I'm not interested in that, right? So I clicked off the things I am interested in, and that's what I receive updates about. You can change this at any time, right? You can click, unclick buttons and update your preferences. You can do it every day if you want, but we know that your interests change and evolve over time. So that's why you get to update this over time, right? And then you can look for those on-track emails in your emails on Thursday nights. All right, so let's go back here. So I've showed you some of these resources to help with your research, but let's move on to the next step, which is networking. Because networking, in my mind, is part of research. I want to just briefly define networking, right? So let's reframe networking, because some of you hear networking, it might feel like an intimidating word. I know I'm a really shy person and I hate networking by that idea of what it is, kind of a little bit old school. So what networking really is, it's connecting with others who share your professional interests, right? It's simply connecting with other people, right? And talking to people is one of the best ways you can do research, which is why this is a part of research. Talking to professionals who work at organizations you're interested in. Talking to alumni who have career paths that are similar to the career paths you might want to follow, or maybe they just do a job that you want to learn more about, right? Hearing about it straight from somebody's experience is one of the best ways to learn and do research, right? So let's, do an example. Let's say you want to learn more about community organizing. You might ask yourself, who has helpful information about this that I could talk to, right? And after I talk to them and I learn about their experience, let's just do a check and make sure I want to learn more about it. Or maybe they gave me a new idea that I want to go learn about. Or maybe I learned that it's not what I thought and there's something else I need to go look for. So lots of ways to do this part of research, this networking, right? We have events, right? So you can always check our event calendar. Like 2 nights ago, we had a nonprofit and social impact networking event. We had 34 guests there. I know some of you were there and you got to talk to people and learn, right? Later this month, we have our last networking night of the year, which is communications, arts and media, right? So if you're interested in jobs in communications or media, you might go learn a little bit more about it at that event. And then we have 2 tools for you to have career conversations with alumni. Right? So career conversations are, simply put, like coffee chats or interviews where you interview somebody else so that you can learn. It's research, right? So I'm going to take a moment now to show you how to use both LinkedIn and the Herd to find alumni for you to do some research with. All right. So let's switch over to a browser so we can do that. So I'm going to show you how to use LinkedIn to find alumni first. Someone put in the chat something that they want to learn about, right? And we'll look for it. We'll do your example. But you can see from my homepage of LinkedIn, I'm going to go to Tufts University's page because they have their own page. So we're going to go there. And we are going to search for alumni. We're going to click alumni. And guess what? When we do, this is a search tool, right? So we can look at all 24,000 people on LinkedIn who have Tufts in their profile because they went to undergrad or even grad school here, and we have access to all those people. So what should we look for? Somebody put something in the chat box that maybe, they'd love to find an alum who does X. Let's use it for an example. Anyone? All right, then I'll just think of my own. So let's say we want to find alums who are teachers so we can learn more about teaching, right? I'm just going to type teacher in the search bar. I might play around with that and refine that word a little bit later, right? But I can simply just see these 6,000 people here who came up because the word teacher was on their profile. Or I can use some of these additional filters to see what they majored in or where they work now. I might say, okay, yeah, I'd like to look at the Tufts alumni who have Somerville Public Schools on their resume. Let's see what I can learn there. And now I get a list of people. Oh, here, let's take a look at, this superintendent at Somerville Public Schools. Okay. When I look at somebody's profile, I like to scroll down to their education section first to see where we connect, right? So it looks like they got their master's probably master's in teaching, right? Actually, master's in Latin and Greek at Tufts, right? And then I like to look at their experience so I can follow their path. Let's say this person has a job that is really interesting. They've done some consulting for the Massachusetts Department of Education. They're also currently superintendent and had experience at the Boston Public Schools as well. We can connect, we can send a message and ask Mary if she's interested and available to chat with us for a few minutes so we can learn about what it's like to be a superintendent, right, at a public school system, or maybe even what state education consulting looks like, right? So it's a great place to get ideas and connect for those conversations. If you have, now this is how to just look for alumni, right? But let's say you have a specific company in mind and you want to see if there's a Tufts alum that works there. We might kind of reverse engineer it. So let's say we want to work at the YMCA. I'm going to go to their page and I'm going to click people. Yeah. And I'm going to type in Tufts. Wow. I'm not seeing any Tufts alumni here. That's actually kind of surprising. Let's look for a different organization just so I can show you how this works. Let's say we want to work at maybe the World Bank. We'll go for really big. Big global organization. I'm going to click people. I'm going to type in Tufts and look for Tufts grads here. Cool, I can select Fletcher or Tufts. And I get a list of people who went to Tufts that either work or worked at the UN, the World Bank. Mistake. Right? We can look at their profiles. And maybe we want to get in touch with them if we want to ask them more about what they do. Now the herd, some of you might have heard of the herd, right? The herd is similar to what I just showed you on LinkedIn, but it's Tufts specific. Okay, so Tufts basically has their own platform for connecting alumni and students to have these kinds of research conversations. Okay? So you're going to have to create a profile if you don't have one already. But once you have one and sign in, this is what your dashboard looks like. Now, the benefit of LinkedIn is it's vast, right? It's everyone on LinkedIn that you can search. But whereas the herd is only alumni who have volunteered to talk to students. So it's a smaller pool of people, but the plus side is that every alumni on the herd has volunteered to talk to you. So you can message them and they're basically waiting to have a chat with you and help you out, give you some ideas and research. I just want to answer a question about LinkedIn before we move on too far, because Ariel is asking if we have LinkedIn Premium through Tufts, and the answer is no, right? So you do not have access to LinkedIn Premium. In my opinion, I don't think that's something you all need, right? So even if you can't find, even if you don't have access to reach out to somebody through LinkedIn, you can, I'll show you an example here. Show you some different ways you could do this. So if you're not able to message somebody because it's locked, you can connect and add a note, right? And you can add a short note saying, you know, hi, Jan, I'm a student at Tufts. I'm really interested in, you know, global food and nutrition, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to chat with me or connect, right? Another thing you can do is join the this group called the Tufts Largest LI LinkedIn group. You can see when you're on someone's profile, hey, Jan and I are both in this group, right? When you go to the group, if when you're on LinkedIn, if you're in a group with somebody else, you have access to override the fact that you're not connected to message them. So in the group, I might look at for all the members, remember someone's name that you want to connect with. Let's see, we can find. There's Jan Bai, right? And we can send him a message because we're in the same group. Now, if you're seeing that if a lot of people are coming up when you're searching and they don't have names or profiles or pictures, you might need to increase the amount of connections you have on LinkedIn, right? So the way that networking works is that you have access to the people that you know and then the people that they know, right? And so connect to your peers, connect to your previous coworkers, previous volunteer colleagues, previous supervisors, advisors on campus, right? The more people you're connected to on LinkedIn, the more access you have to other people in their networks. Right? So that's going to be really key in this. And I'm going to go back to the herd before we run out of time. So it works really similar to LinkedIn, where you'll explore the community and you can search using a keyword. You can search using location, major, industry expertise, and you can also search by different social identities or groups that you're a part of. So let's say you want to find somebody who's, you know, also a first generation student like yourself, or maybe you want to find somebody who also participated in a certain group when they were at Tufts. Right? Maybe you want to find a fellow soccer player. You can use these filters to connect to people who've had similar life or Tufts experiences that similar to you. I'm going to simply do an industry search and choose, you know, federal government. And you can see who comes up. And let's see, so we might say, I'm just kind of looking really quickly. Their profiles look really similar to the way LinkedIn does. And if you find that their profile is a little scarce, you might even plug their name into LinkedIn and see if you can learn more about them. Right? And you can see I bookmarked this person so that I could find them easily later. Okay? So that's a nice thing you can do. So you can message Megan or a person that you've identified right in the application. Right? So you can choose one of these. You know, choose the career exploration template for your message and then edit this so that you can ask them, hey, I'm interested in, you know, I'm really interested in humanitarian work and I'm a current Tufts student and I'd love to pick your brain a little bit or hear about your path since you graduated. Would you be willing to chat sometime in the next couple of weeks? And they'll get back to you. I know this is a ton of information and I have essentially been lecturing for a while, but we have one more piece, one more step in the job search process. Maybe, I don't want to say the most important step because all of these 4 steps really get you to be able to do the search effectively, right? So our last step is actually searching and applying. You've already gained a lot of knowledge through your research in order to have some of the tools you'll need for your search, right? But when you get to the search phase, you want to be thinking or asking yourself, how can I find out about opportunities? What kind of job roles am I drawn to? Is there a timeline, right? Generally in the social impact, nonprofit kind of sphere, spring is when you'll apply for internships and full-time jobs. But Kelly will tell you that, some more competitive internships at, big global NGOs or government positions sometimes, really large, established, maybe a little bit more desired, like a popular place to intern. It could be a little bit more competitive. They might post opportunities and recruit for opportunities in the fall, right? Usually late fall, you're not going to probably see any applications due September or October unless you're thinking about impact investing or social impact consulting. But even with both impact consulting and impact investing, those really, there's not a lot of entry level positions, right? So college recruiters aren't usually hiring those positions. So that's just a little bit about the timeline there. So where will we find opportunities? I'm going to go through a few of these. Handshake, looking for opportunities on Handshake. I'm going to show you some Tufts opportunities, some industry specific job boards, and places to find good resources. Yeah. So first, let me show you Handshake. Hopefully, most of you are familiar with using Handshake to search for jobs and internships. We're going to click jobs and internships. And I think the key with searching anytime, whether it's Handshake or another platform, is don't overfilter and search many times, right? Those are the 2 keys, right? So let's say we're looking for an internship, for example, and let's say we want to stay in Boston. I'll use those 2 filters, and then I'll just start with the keyword, right? Let's say I want to do community organizing. Maybe I type in that word and see what comes up. Okay. I'm going to look through some of these. Opportunities. I might bookmark a few that I want to come back to. So you can bookmark here, right? And then you'll be able to see them in your saved jobs later. My internet's a little too slow to do this demo, right? As you're looking through jobs, maybe you notice other words that you could use to search as well, right? So I'm going to type in advocacy. And you'll see that a different set of jobs came up than when I typed in organizing, right? A completely different group of jobs. And so it's important that we do, like I said, many searches. Don't just do one and stop. Search for one word and then find other words that are going to be helpful as well. You can also use some additional filters here, but again, I might use the industry one every now and then, but when you narrow things down too much, you really also lose a lot. And so it can become the opposite of helpful if we put too many criteria in. Okay. So that's how to use Handshake to search for opportunities. On the Career Center website, let me just show you some Tufts opportunities. Many of them have passed for this year, but I think you should all know for the future. If we go to learn more about finding an internship, you will click on internship funding, and you'll see all of the paid opportunities through Tufts Not all of them are social impact, but many of them are. Right, so you'll see the Tisch Summer Fellow Program. If you're an underclassman, you can apply for this next year because the deadline's passed already. Maybe some of the social science research programs interest you. The Career Center also has a grant. If you have an unpaid internship, which many in nonprofits are, you can apply for funding through our program. Okay. You can also look directly on company pages, right? So let's say you're really interested in working for a specific company. I'll use the YMCA again as an example. Right, we can go directly to their organization's website and look for their jobs or career page. We can look for postings directly there. You should definitely, here's their search, you can search their postings. You should definitely also be in touch with your academic department. So a lot of academic departments have newsletters. Make sure you're getting those because they often, and looking at them because they often have internships listed in there. The Tufts International Relations Department also has some really good resources. And you know, each department has a variety of resources in addition to the newsletter, but I use this one as an example because I think it's one of the better ones. If I'm going to go to careers and alumni and then click on career development. The IR department has these career guides. Here, I'll put this in the chat for everyone really quick. You can click on any one of these guides and it gives you kind of a breakdown of the landscape along with some ideas of organizations to look at in different categories of the breakdown. So these can be really helpful. And sort of last, but very much not least, I want to take us back to the career community pages, because there are so many helpful resources and individual sort of job boards in addition to Handshake that you can use here, right? So let's say you're interested in, nonprofits. This under Find Opportunities, here's a list of places that you can look for jobs in addition to Handshake that's nonprofit specific, right? So Work for Good, this is a job board focused on mission-driven careers. Hire Culture. Hire Culture is one of my favorites. That's you can look for jobs and internships at museums and cultural institutions. Idealist.org is also one of my favorite resources for nonprofits. Hire Culture happens to be Massachusetts specific, but we can filter by intern. We can choose the region of the state. So I just want to give you a kind of idea of what kind of internships are listed here. The jobs, right? So we're looking at, museums, cultural institutions, arts institutions. Idealist is a job and internship search engine just for nonprofits, right? So this is what a lot of you might be looking for. We can filter by city. You can use keywords. And I also love that you can search by issue area. Once my internet loads this up, I will do an example. So, we can choose any issue area that you're particularly passionate about. Right, and we can look for jobs. There, found one job, right? We can search for internships. And, Idealist is a great resource for your research too. So let's say you want to identify organizations in the Boston area that have something to do with, supporting women. I clicked on that issue area and now I have a big old list of all of the organizations in Boston that have some sort of mission related to supporting women, and we can start researching some of these organizations that we haven't heard of. We can go to their page. learn a little bit more about them, maybe even go to their website. Maybe we look for alumni there, maybe we reach out to them, maybe we can find a way to get involved just from their website. You know, a lot of, nonprofits don't have the resources to be able to post jobs on all of the different websites because it can cost some money. So you might see if they have jobs listed on their website that you didn't see otherwise. I'm going to show you one more resource, point out one more industry specific resource like this, but we can't possibly go through all of them because there's so many, but now you know where to find them. I'm going to International Affairs, the International Affairs tab, and you'll see here again, opportunities in public affairs. This is one I really like, as well as global jobs for internships and NGOs and think tanks. But I want to show you also this APSIA International Careers Guide. I know Kelly was telling me today that this is one of her favorite resources, similar to how my favorite resource is Idealist. This is an international career guide, options in the field. It's pretty long, but you can, pick a topic based on the table of contents, skip down to, page 49 or whatever your choice is, and learn all about, careers in human rights and start to get, what are the salary ranges? What do these jobs actually do? And what are some organizations to help me get started? Yeah. So these are some really great resources. We'll put this one in the chat for you as well. I know you're probably about at information overload. So, just a reminder of all these different resources. And, this is just an example of some of these industry specific resources based on what you're looking for. School Spring, jobs in teaching, Go Abroad are teaching jobs and opportunities abroad. Think tanks, human rights careers, some of my favorite museum job boards. These are all nonprofit. And we have, Capitol Hill careers, USA jobs, opportunities in public affairs, right? So I know this is a lot, but this is just to get you started. And even this list you're seeing here on this slide, these are all in those career community pages that I showed you. So you know where to find them now, but also, these are resources that we use on a regular. So scheduling a meeting with someone in the Career Center, myself, Kelly, or otherwise, to help you really dig a little bit deeper into your interests and what would be meaningful experiences for you, what you want to explore and how to find those. We can continue to tailor and really individualize your search. All right. So that brings us to the end. I know I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to turn it over to you all and see what questions you have, because like I said, I know this was a lot of information. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I want to tell you to just write down the 2 things that really stick out to you from this presentation and start there. Okay? If you take away just 1 or 2 new resources that are going to be helpful from this, that's a win. Okay, you can't memorize it all at once. So know that this is all here and that Kelly and I are here to support your search as well.